A member of the House of Representatives, to be more precise. Welcome, Ron. Why do you think that the White House is playing this down, really? Because they're saying that this isn't an easing of sanctions. They're saying that it's just it's a reviewing of ones that were imposed by the previous administration.
Right. I think it might be a test for them, and they're toning it down, but I don't think it's necessarily too bad, because I think he wants to reduce the sanctions, and I think he's going to get a lot of heat from it. Most people are not like me. I hate sanctions. I don't think we should have them. And a lot of people think, they believe into all the rhetoric and the discourse about, the Russians are coming, we got to punish them. So he has to deal with this more gently. So he puts on this example of trying to reduce sanctions, and he doesn't remove them, but I think he's sort of testing the waters. But that's just my guess, because I think he really wants to reduce the sanctions, and he expects to get a lot of political heat from it, which I've already heard some of, because people, condemn it. I come from a libertarian perspective. I believe in free trade, and I don't like sanctions. I don't like trade barriers or anything else. But it's harder for me to figure it out, because sometimes put sanctions on this person, take it off on this person. I like to just say, well, if it's good to have a free trade, we should just do it. But I think he's, backing a little bit, probably for political reasons, and just to see how palatable removing some of these sanctions will be. And hopefully, it won't be too difficult, and he will be able to progress from there.
Some people will say it's only a small step. Others will say, well, it's a step in the right direction. So in that sense, it's quite big. How significant a move do you think this is?
How significant, pardon me, what?
How significant a change do you think this is?
Oh, I think it's very good, very significant, and hopefully he doesn't get too much pressure where he backs down and goes in the other direction. I think it's great. But I detested the sanctions when they were put on, because I didn't like that. So I think this is one thing that shouldn't be a surprise, because he talked about better relations with Russia, and that is very good. So I think he's following through, and I hope he continues to do it, and it depends on probably the politics of it all. But no, I think this is very significant, and hopefully it'll even get better.
Do you think anything can be read into this about whether or not Donald Trump thinks Russia was involved in hacking and trying to influence the US presidential election?
I have no idea, but to me that was so superficial, and, should have been dismissed, because just generally speaking, governments are spying on each other all the time. For me, it was no big deal either way. But I don't think the politicians and the political people and the party people might try to make fun of that. But I don't think, I have no idea what Trump thinks deep down in his heart. But if anybody's honest, people know that all governments spy on everybody, and you spy on your friends and everything else. I find it rather disgusting. But then if they can use it politically, then all of a sudden, oh, did you know what they did? Did they know what they did? But obviously Trump doesn't think that it was a serious matter. They convinced Obama that it was a serious matter, and that's why he said, oh, we got to punish the Russians, for doing this. But that's all politics. But unfortunately, it has a negative connotation. So when Trump comes along and he wants to relieve some of this, I think that's good.
Donald Trump, he's only been in office for, a couple of weeks, barely, and he's being criticised whatever he does, and he is doing quite a lot. Is that actually a good time to make changes, because there's already so much criticism, there's not much more bad can be said about you?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you can, because some days I criticize him too. When he wants to pick a fight with Iran, I'm criticizing him all the time, and I'm looking for consistency. And he might try to be consistent with his promises in the campaign, but then when you have a consistent policy of trade, and picking fights, I can't figure it out. He wants to, look for a battle with China, but not with Russia. He wants to get along better with with Iran, and you know, it's back and forth. But I just think that generally speaking, today was a good move and beneficial. I just hope he goes in that direction, and if it works and we have better relations, that we should apply that to Iran and China as well. I just can't understand why, if something is good for one country, why it can't be good for everybody. And I don't think any country should go out looking for enemies and antagonism and provoking and things like that. That's the part that that I don't like.
And Ron, if President Trump does want better relations with Russia, something he suggested he does want, do you think this is going to have to be a very, very gentle, gradual process, or can he afford to be a little bit bolder in improving relations?
Well, he should. I mean, if he called me and asked me advice, do it, cut them. They're wrong. Just like when a country goes in and makes a mistake invading or messing around, just get out. Don't pussyfoot around. In the same way with sanctions. Sanctions are bad. They're wrong, and we don't need them. They don't serve any benefit, and they lead to more trouble, and they lead to trade wars and all kinds of things. That just do it. But no, I think the politicians sort of test the waters, and let's hope that's what he's doing. And if it's tomorrow and the next day, people generally forget about this, and there has been lightening up on some of these in reality, I think that would be very good, and he might go then and move to the next step. And maybe he would get bold and remove all the sanctions, but I'm not predicting that. Let's just hope that's the way it goes, and that's why I hope today's announcement is real and really is a benefit, and that there's not too much political grandstanding over it, because you know, my ideas about free trade is that if you trade with people, you're less likely to fight with them. That's why I love the idea that once we started trading with China and actually with Russia after the end of the Soviet system, I thought that was wonderful. I didn't think we'd go back to this kind of stuff, but you know, in the last 10 years, we've been drifting back in that direction. So let's get Trump drifting in the other direction and saying, hey, we don't need to be fighting with everybody, and we don't need to be putting sanctions on Russia. But it looks like to me that's an exception to the rule right now, because there's a lot of threats of tariffs and protectionism going around the world. I don't think that's a good sign.
Ron, great to speak to you as always. My guest, Ron Paul, former US Congressman. Thank you.